today at 909-570-9048. That's 909-570-9048, or email info@elitefinancialcredit.com. That's info@elitefinancialcredit.com.
You're listening to an encore presentation of this program, KCAA, the Inland Talk Express.
Welcome to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. Each week on this program, Jeff and his guests share their expertise, personal anecdotes, and the latest industry news to keep you in the loop. Now, to provide you with insight and help you navigate the consistently changing world of real estate lending, here is your host for The Mortgage Voice, Jeff Barton.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. 888-713-2929 telephone number. Pick up the phone, give us a call. We can answer your questions about what's going on in the mortgage business. And that, of course, relates to anything having to do with you wanting to either buy or sell or any number of other things in the spectrum of why you need money to buy a house. Why you need money if you're going to sell a house. A lot of people don't understand that when you sell a house, you're going to end up with money, right? And what are you going to do with that money? There is a number of ways by which you can lessen the tax significance, if in fact there is one. And, oh, by the way, the 2-year exemption, meaning that if you live in a house 2 years, you can sell it and keep the short-term capital gains up to a certain number. Well, that's changed as of the tax laws a couple of years ago. And so you need to call your tax professional and ask them, what's the new law? What is this about? I think it's 4 years now, and I also think that the tax exemption is $600,000 per individual, $1.2 million for a couple. So if you've got a house in California right now and you're thinking of selling, you want to make sure that you understand that if you sell that house and the profit, if you're a couple, is over $1.2 million, you're going to be paying taxes on that. Now, if you're 55 or older, I believe that's it. Again, check with your tax professional. But you can save the basis of the house you're in and transfer it to the new property if it's of more value. Meaning, let's say you have $1 million house you're selling, and you bought that house, 100 years ago, and it cost you, $100,000. Now it's $1 million. So you're about ready to see a tax significance of $300,000 if you're a single person. Maybe your husband or significant other aren't with you anymore, and you've got a tax bill. If you are 55 and over, you can move that basis. Now, what is a basis? A basis is whatever you paid for the property. So in whatever year that was, 100 years ago, you paid $100,000 for the property. You can keep that basis, meaning that your property tax bill will still be $100,000 if you are 55 and older and go through the steps to move the basis from what your old house was to what your new house is. Even though your new house may be, $1 million, $1.2 million, $800,000, $900,000. If you don't do that, the tax significance is substantial at 1.25%, I think, or even higher in some Melrose districts. You might be saving yourself a ton of dough on taxes. That's one thing that's pretty important. So if you're into selling, understand that there are some significant issues having to do with taxes, having to do with what you're going to do with your money. Let's say that you're selling and you want to take the profit of your house and push it into a commercial venture. Like, let's say you want to buy units. You want to buy maybe a storefront. You want to do something with that money other than stick it in the bank or stick it in the stock market. There is something called 1031 exchanges. Now, you can do this off of residential properties if you move that money into a commercial property. And again, if there is a tax significance that you're worried about, you're a single person or you're a married couple, you just sold something that's going to give you a tax, issue with $300,000-$400,000, maybe you want to move that money tax-free into a commercial venture. And now, what do I mean by commercial? You could buy something, rent it out, and that's commercial. That's considered commercial, right? They do a lot of 1031 exchanges in order to save the tax consequences. So if you're doing that and you're saving that kind of money, that's pretty good scratch out there if you're not aware of it. $300,000-$400,000, saving taxes on that because tax significance is higher now than it was. Let's say that you're moving and you want to buy a new place. I know many of you out there probably are aware, but some of you aren't aware that you no longer can write off your mortgage interest rates past $500,000. So you get a new, now in Orange County, for instance, the average home down there is $1 million. That's the average price. So $500,000, let's say you get a mortgage for $800,000, you put 20% down, so you're getting an $800,000 mortgage, and you used to be able to write off the interest to the whole thing up to $1 million. Well, you can't do that anymore. It's $500,000. So if you're buying that house and you've got an $800,000 mortgage and you've got, $500,000, you can write the mortgage off. Nope, $300,000 you can't. So you're going to be paying taxes on that. And the reason for that is because in the tax code, it's not complex, but you need to talk to your tax professionals because there's a whole slew of things you can and can't do with real estate anymore. It's really important. We've got March 15th coming up, April 15th coming up in a month. That's really important in terms of doing your taxes. Now, I know a lot of people in the real estate industry and the lending industry, anybody who works for a 1099, what that means is you don't get a paycheck every week, but you do get something what they call a 1099 at the end of the year from companies you're working for that declares to the IRS, this is what we paid this person. You got to collect all those up and declare that on your particular taxes. You used to be able to write off, if you're in the real estate and mortgage business, all kinds of expenses. Maybe you took a client to dinner. Maybe you bought some ball game tickets. And these particular write-offs would add up, and that would become a negative in terms of your income. So you make some money, and you take the amount of money that you have on write-offs, and you take it off the top, so you're paying taxes on less money than you actually made because of these expenses that you were able to write off. Can't do that anymore. So you've got to check with your tax professional. If you're expecting to write off, all of your dinners out with clients, quote unquote, and they could add up to $5,000-$6,000 a year, and on a $100,000 income, that's significant, right? Because if you're paying 22% on your income, yeah, that could save you $1,000 right there. Well, you just can't do that. Check with your tax professionals. Anybody in the business, anybody who has a second job that gets paid cash and you put it in the bank, be careful about that too. Why do I say all this about taxes? Why? Because when you're looking to reinvest or buy and you want to get a mortgage and you want to be able to show income or you want to be able to show what you're making on a yearly basis, you have to have proof of income for many loans out there in the marketplace. Now, we've talked on the show many times about loans that you don't need that kind of documentation for, but it's going to be more expensive. Now, the rates. Let's talk rates just for a second because it's really important to understand rates have come down a lot. So much so that there's a refinance market again. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, 30-year fixed-rate loans as low as 4.375. It was a year ago that they were almost at 5%, and they went up to almost 5.375 towards the end of last year. So we've seen a significant reduction in the last 5 to 6 months, so much so that people who bought a home for 5.25% are now looking to refinance so that they can lower their payments. And it does make sense. When you look at a loan and you're looking to decide whether saving, $50, $100, $200 per month is worth it, you have to look at how long you've had that loan. How long have you been paying on interest rates? For instance, we all know on an amortized 30-year loan that the interest payments that you make on that 30-year loan are such that for the first 10, 12, 14 years, you're paying mostly principal. I mean, mostly, listen to me, mostly interest. So those interest payments that you're making aren't really reducing the principal all that much. Now, it does some, but you really begin to pay that loan off in the last 10 years of the loan. That's the way it, because the banks want their money up front. It's just the way it is. And that's what amortization does. But if you are in the first year, year and a half, 2 years, maybe even up to 5 years, do the math. Find out how long it's going to take with making that savings for you to recoup the money that you are losing on interest payments that you've already made. If the payment is longer than, I would say, 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. I mean, if it's a 30-year loan, yeah, I can see doing it at 2.5 years, maybe longer. But if it takes you longer than that to pay off and start seeing actual reduction in the amount of money you've totally paid, then I think it's probably worth it. And it's worth looking at it now because interest rates have really dropped. Anyway, thanks for listening to the show. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your host for The Mortgage Voice, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. We'll be right back with more in just a moment. For more information on today's topic, email Jeff Barton at info@malibufunding.net. Now, back to The Mortgage Voice with your host, Jeff Barton.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry, 888-713-2929. That's the telephone number. And if you have questions about what we've talked about on the show, anytime during the show, you can call us, leave a message if I don't pick up because I'm on the air and I can't get you on, or write the phone number down, call us at another time. We are always here available for questions that you're going to have. It is that time of the year when a lot of properties are about ready to be listed, which means there's going to be more properties on the market, and that's a good thing if you're a buyer. Let's say you're out there and you've been shopping and you want to know what exactly is in the marketplace. There are a lot of places that you can go, although the real estate marketplace is changing. The landscape of what's happening out there in terms of you being able to see listings for free is going to change. Now, why do I say this? I say this because companies like Zillow and Trujillo and Realtor.com are changing the way they're doing business. And the reason for that is that they're public companies and they need to show that there is growth in their bottom line so that they continue to increase the value of their stock for their shareholders. So what does this mean? It means that the listings become a value proposition for both the board of realtors, the individual agents who take those listings, and of course the companies that need to show you out there in the marketplace what's happening. The way Zillow has traditionally brought buyers and sellers to their particular website is that they use something called a valuation, meaning that you go there and you can see what something's worth. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Although there is a lot of animosity in the realtor community as to the validity of the pricing structure that they use when they value a home. Most people think it's probably 10 to 15% too high. I tend to agree that it is too high. I'm not sure what percentage that is. But yes, I agree too that Zillow, by really buying your eyeballs, they are attracting people to their website because they're saying something is worth more than it is, or that, this is what it's worth. And people who are buying go there and they see the prices, but more or less people going there to buy are looking for all the listings in one place. So what's happening is each individual agent is now in charge of making agreements with Zillow or Realtor.com or Trujillo or Redfin or any of these others. What those companies are called are aggregate suppliers of information, and they collect information from various sources. So there is a move in the realtor community, especially with some associations, to not allow these companies anymore to get the listings for free, meaning that they would have to pay some percentage of what they're making to whoever it is supplying them with listings. If there are companies out there that are buyer agent companies and others that are, selling agent or listing agent. If you're a listing agent company, the value of what you have in a listing is worth something. Now, the reason I bring this up, it's boring business side of what we talk about every day on the show and what we talk about as industry professionals. But understand, if you're listing your property, that the listing itself has value. Like if you do a loan, right? Most people think, okay, I'm going to get a loan. It's going to be 4%, blah, blah, blah. The company that gives me the loan, I send them the payments and they make money, and that's how they make money. That's not how that works either. Like the realtor world, in the loan world, the paper of your loan, the actual, whether it's a mortgage in some states or here it's a first trust deed and a note, But that promise that you're going to repay the money that was lent to you is bought and sold on the marketplace all the time. Most of these loans, which are standard 20% down conventional loans, get sold to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. If you're wanting to only put down 3.5%, those FHA loans, they get sold over to Ginnie Mae. But those particular cookie-cutter loans really get bought and sold 2 or 3 times before they end up with Fannie or Freddie. There are many lenders out there who just look to doing the paper, could care less about the customer other than, are they paying on time? Are they paying now? Are they paying rapidly? And are they a problem? Because then your particular loan becomes valuable. Now, when you do the loan, you will sign a piece of paper that says, yes, I'm aware that this loan can be bought or sold immediately and many times. One of the things that is never discussed, when those loans are sold, there is something called a they sell the loan, right, for whatever it is, a couple of points, 3 points, 5 points, whatever it is. But there's something also called a service-related premium. Now, that service-related premium is what we all know as servicers, people that, you know, collect the money and pay the lender or whoever it is that holds the note. Those servicers are different than your lender, which, of course, is nobody that's going to hold on to that paper. Very few lenders do. So all of this, by its nature, changes the aspect of your negotiating power with the lender. If you said to a lender, now I'm shooting myself in the foot here, but if you said to a lender, look, I know that this note is going to be sold immediately, and I know that the servicing rights, i.e. the people I pay my payment to, is a separate transaction that you also make money on. I want to know if I can get reduced fees. Now, what does that mean as a result of that? As a result of you knowing that, it's telling the lender that, hey, this person is a savvy person who will go somewhere else. They will do this. And in a very highly competitive market, which is what we're in right now, hyper competitive market. Big companies like United Wholesale, Franklin American, and Quicken Loans are in a pricing war right now. That's right, a pricing war. So if you're looking for the lowest rates and you don't necessarily want to go to Wells Fargo because that company seems to not be able to get anything right, or you don't want to go to Bank of America or Chase or any of the other larger banks, and you want to go to Quicken or Franklin American or United Wholesale, those companies are in a price war. So you could probably do very well in terms of your rate if you went to one of those companies. Now, if you have a broker, just say, hey, look, I've heard these rates are great. Quicken just lowered their rates by 1 whole point. There's a war for your loan out there. So if you go in armed with the knowledge that, hey, I know there's competition out there for this loan, and you also know the SRP is being sold, the service-related premium, as well as the note itself, especially here in California where we use trust deeds, that's what they sell. You know that you have an ability to say, look, you're making money twice. I don't need to pay your $895 or $900 underwriting fee. I think that's too much. Or some of the other fees that you might pay. You might be able to get those fees down, especially if you go in forearmed. Now, of course, they could say, hey, take your business elsewhere, but knowledge is power, always. And if you're in any of these businesses, whether it's you're selling a house and you know the fact that the aggregate of all the listings get bought and sold in the back end, you can say to your realtor, hey, are you making money on this listing itself rather than selling my house? Because if they are, they should disclose it to you. And if they're not, you could then say, okay, fine, I still want a reduction in my costs. Let's see. Quickly, Fannie Mae not Fannie Mae, but I was reading online, and a guy named John Passonen, March 11th, Step-by-Step Guide to Gaining a Competitive Edge. Okay, this is for people who are looking to see if they can service you better as loan officers. There were 3 steps, and I'll get to it quickly in 1 minute. The first step, understand what the borrowers want. Now, you're a borrower out there, and you're listening to this. Understand what the borrower wants. You tell them, you want a loan, you want it cheap, right? I mean, it's pretty simple. But it involves much more than just those 2 things. the listening to what a borrower really wants. For instance, you may think a borrower wants to put 20% down when in fact he wants to take that 20% and use it to fix up the house. He's really looking for something of a down payment assistance. You have to listen and listen hard. Number two, you have to redesign the journey. Now, this is one of those, what the heck are they talking, redesign the journey? What you want to do is make it a collaborative effort and inform rather than tell. And that's always important in communication and sales. You want the customer to be able to make the decision as long as they have the most information available. And number three, Fannie Mae, the lender sentiment, and what they come up with in terms of how they want to do their business is important for you to understand that that secondary market is alive and well and wants your loans, so they're willing to negotiate. Hi, this is Jeff Barton, and I am your voice in the mortgage industry, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. We'll be right back with more in just a moment. For more information on today's topic, email Jeff Barton at info@malibufunding.net. Now, back to The Mortgage Voice with your host, Jeff Barton.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. 888-713-2929. That's our telephone number. If you pick up the phone and give us a call, we can help you answer questions about your real estate needs. Now, it's springtime. A lot of people looking to either move or buy. A lot of product coming on the market. And one of the cool things about real estate, and everybody loves to talk about real estate, it's like talking about your kids at the playground, right? Everybody who has them really likes talking about them. Well, real estate's like that too. The reason being is that 90% of millionaires in the U.S. did it by real estate. So everybody's excited about it, wants to deal with it, talk about it, and they're always picking my brain. I'm not the expert, but I do bring to the show many people, and this person in particular has written a book, and I want to bring her, first time on the show, Jacqueline T.D. Wynn, True Legacy Wealth. And Jacqueline, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, finish the name of the book.
Subtitle?
Yes, please. I just figured you would do much better service to it than I would.
Absolutely. So the title of the book is called True Legacy Wealth, Creating Generational Wealth Through Real Estate Investing.
Okay. Now, most people would say, how do you get involved in that? I'm newly out of college. I'm a retired steel worker. I'm a mother of three that has a part-time job. All of these people want to get involved in it. How do they do it?
You know, the first thing you have to look at is what your goal is, right? Because there's as you know, are you trying to buy and hold? Are you planning to do flipping? Like maybe you have time and you want to fix some properties and you want to flip the property. And also you need to look at what it is that's important for your family. I'm a single mom, and so being with my children is very important. So any goals that I make, anything that I do, I look at how is it going to affect my family.
Okay.
So I think in any new business and venture, you have to look at how it's affecting your family. And then there's multifaceted of where you want to go in real estate. You can go into turnkey. That's what we offer for the busy family, where we do it all. We find the properties, we analyze it, we bring it to you, we help you get it financed, and then our third-party vendor will manage it. Some people want more hands-on, and they have that time. They'll make a little more money, but it requires more time.
Okay, expertise in this. A lot of people do not want to make a mistake. Everybody is fresh in their minds, 2008, 9, and 10, where everybody seemed to think that every 10 months the property would go up 10 or 15%, they'd refi or they'd sell, they'd flip. Nobody wants to get stuck in that again. How does a novice get involved with this without getting hurt?
You know, the thing about real estate that, like you said earlier, everybody wants to get into it, but there is a barrier to entry, as you know. Most people do not know what to do, how to start. They don't know what a good property manager is or who they can even trust. And so you need to build a team. I think with anything, any wealthy person will tell you they have a team. You can't know it all. So you first need to find someone that has invested. Maybe you find a realtor that that's what they do. They help investors. You learn all of the numbers, what a cap rate is, what CRM is. You read books. I got my license, and I also listen to audiobooks. There's many, many ways to start learning, but you got to start somewhere.
Now, I talk to flippers on the show all the time. And we do a show in Las Vegas called the Las Vegas Real Estate Show, very similar to this, except it's on television. And what we often find when we're talking to professionals like yourself is that at some point there's something blocking an individual from making the leap. For you, what is that?
Mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we are not just a country, I think a world, right, of people that can get information at their fingertips with Google and Yahoo and all these things. And look, I can get as much information as I want, but at the end of the day, you got to look at your mindset. What do you believe that you are capable of doing? Are you good enough? Are you ready to do this? And those are the people that actually become millionaires. They jump when they know it's time, and they build the right team. The team, you don't have to be 100%.
Right.
Right? I mean, look, I downloaded, upgraded my OS system, and it's so screwed up, and, you find out that that's how you're the guinea pig, right? Like they send it out. So 80%, if you're 80% ready, right now, that's what I say, build that team. That's what we do. We've already built the team for our clients, so they just have to join. We have everything in place for them so that it's there, and we start teaching them. But I tell my clients, it's time to jump. You have to look at your mindset and see what's holding you back.
In what you do each and every day, helping people, right? I suppose a lot of this information is in the book, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because and by the way, how would people get the book if they wanted to read what you've written?
It's on Amazon. So just search True Legacy Wealth, and you'll see our cover. There, it's Jacqueline T.D. Huynh and Maurice Kempner. That is the co-author. Maurice is an attorney specializing in tax and real estate and business. So you can order it right now on Amazon.
Well, that leads me to a good question, and this is a good pairing of individuals. When you get into the business, if you're in the flipping business, part of real estate rather than the hold or whatever other investment strategies you might have, there is a tax consequence in flipping houses, right?
Absolutely. You got to know.
Right.
You got to know the game to play the game. I think a lot of people don't realize it's not just about flipping. We're talking about it's also a business.
Right.
Right. People are flipping, so you got to know the business law as well as the tax law. And then a lot of times you may need to put in a trust. So then you got to know estate planning laws and how that works.
Right. Exactly. And I think to do it by yourself out of the gate, unless you've got the time to study and you have the money by which you can say, okay, I can risk this amount of money without changing my lifestyle, most people would want to have somebody like yourself with a team to be able to, slowly get into dip their toes into the water. Don't you think that's true?
Absolutely. Our property starts at $50,000, single-family home, $50,000 with a minimum of 10% are cash value. In the sense that means that they're getting at least 10% ROI when they purchase it from the purchase price.
Now, so these properties at that price obviously aren't here in California.
No. California is great for appreciation. So that means that if you are okay putting some extra money in to cover the mortgage because you're not going to get that rent money, it's going to appreciate. But a lot of people that we work with are middle-class income earner, and they want cash flow right away. And so you need to get out of California where average properties, you can get a single-family home for $100,000,
yep.
With the rental at $1,000 a month. So you are cash flowing, and we help them build that portfolio up. And then once they get a little savvy, then maybe they'll go up to a multi-unit. Or we have a full team that will rehab for them. So we would bring properties to them that they can flip themselves, and we have a team that will rehab for them and property manage too.
Do you have a website or someplace people could go online? Because from what I'm reading, nobody actually does anything but go online.
Yes, it's True Legacy Wealth, just like the name of the book, .com.
Okay, excellent. And on there, I guess, is a way to sign up, is a way to get more information.
Absolutely. They can go on there, get a free membership where they'll get, we send out emails, about three to four emails a month with actual listings of properties where they can actually jump and say, hey, I want to buy this $50,000 property. And then we help them get finance and all of that.
And you handle the financing yourself, or do you farm that out? How does that work?
Yeah, no, we have our team in place.
Okay,
so we
great.
have vendors, absolutely everything. They can also, we have self-directed IRA people, so if they want to use their IRA to invest in real estate, we will have them speak to our self-directed IRA people, and then they can use that money too.
Jacqueline, thank you very much for coming on the show. I want to do it again because it's intriguing to people to find a way out of whatever they're trying to get out of and into whatever they want to get into. Financially, this is a good way to do it. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you. Okay, this is Jacqueline T.D. Wynn. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. We'll be right back with more in just a moment. For more information on today's topic, email Jeff Barton at info@malibufunding.net. Now, back to The Mortgage Voice with your host, Jeff Barton.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. 888-713-2929. That's our telephone number. Pick up the phone and talk to us about your real estate issues, problems. Maybe you're trying to get a loan and just can't do it. You can't figure out the financing. Maybe you just can't find a location. You know, it is spring almost, and we're going to see a lot more properties on the marketplace. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we've had a little bit of a flattening in prices, so that could help you in your buying decisions. And if you're selling out there, you want to make sure you're pricing your property correctly. If you don't, it's going to sit longer than it should, and you'll get less than it probably is worth. Anyway, to the show. First guy I've had on in a while who I just don't know. And I'm really happy because, you know, what we try to do is bring answers, and I don't have the answers. I certainly don't have all the answers or any of the answers sometimes, but the people we bring on the show are experts in their fields, and I'm really happy that David Krieger, granted us some time here from Berkshire Hathaway. David, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Jeff?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm tired, actually. It's been a rough couple of months in the real estate. I live out in a fire area, so we've been dealing with that.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for inviting me to your show. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, very well. So explain to me a little bit about your business, where you're working, and some particulars so we can narrow in on some of the issues you may be facing or some of the issues that my listeners may want to hear about.
Of course. So I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. I'm an agent in the Encino office.
Uh-huh.
I focus on residential real estate. I represent both buyers and sellers in a wide range of prices, including in the luxury market. And I'm basically client-focused, relationship-based, rather than transactional. And I can explain that, if you'd like me to. But that's what I do.
Okay.
So my area of focus is not just the San Fernando Valley. Some of my clients have asked me to help them in areas such as the West Side, Beverly Hills, and other areas as well. So because I'm client-focused, I'm not working in a small farm. I have a little bit of a larger canvas.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I read an article today online, and I'm constantly trying to re-educate myself as to the new buyers, the new sellers, people who are in the market maybe for the first time, or a whole new generation of people that I don't know anything about except for my kids and their problems enough. So how are you reaching people who necessarily aren't driven to call a real estate agent who want to do all their work online? How are you connecting to this type of buyer?
Okay, so number one, I've been doing this 8 years, so my sphere of people who know me or have known my work is constantly expanding, and so I spend a lot of time working to contact my clients and stay in touch with them.
Great.
So that's one of the sources of my business. In the last year, I've really kicked up my social media posting. So I'm doing targeted emails to my clients and also, I'm on LinkedIn, which is, I think, how you found me,
right?
And Instagram. So I'm starting to get more and more followers who are paying attention to my business.
And the message that you bring to them online, social media-wise, and in person, what would you say is the main thrust of how you're, because you said you were client-focused, but how does that appear to them when you're talking to them?
Well, I hope it appears as sincere, because it is.
Right.
But when I say that my business is relationship-based, for me, it's not about just getting through a transaction, but establishing a relationship for the long term. And that's where more business comes, more referrals come. People, that I know that I've sold properties to who have had the experience of working with me contact me and say, I'm making a move, I'm downsizing, I'm upsizing, my family's expanding, and I like to work with them to help them not only find a property, but obtain a result that, would exceed their expectations. So I work very hard to earn that trust every day.
Tell me about the market. Okay, let's get a little bit specific about the areas you're working.
So let's maybe talk a little bit about the San Fernando Valley and what I'm seeing there, because I live there and and my office is there. I'm seeing that the inventory levels have gone up since last year. A year and a half ago, we were very, very much in a seller's market. I think that is balancing out right now. It's perhaps a slight advantage to sellers, but there's lots of opportunities for buyers as prices have plateaued a little bit, and in some instances have dipped. That being said, I think that I'm still really bullish on real estate long term, and I think that the market fundamentals compared to 2008 are very, very different right now.
Right.
So I think that there is a degree of caution in the business right now in the market, but people are continuing to buy and sell, and that's where I'm focused.
When a buyer and a seller, they get together, they make an agreement, and if a buyer and seller, if they're both unhappy, that's usually a pretty good deal, right? Because now both of them are giving. And so you're seeing more of this now. How do you tell a seller that they're priced too high?
Well, listen, when the question really is, when would I have that conversation? Hopefully it's before I take the listing.
Of course.
Because I'm interested, and I tell my sellers this, I'm interested in selling their property, not getting the listing.
Right.
So in addition to the choice of which realtor to go with, I think that the most important decision that a seller can make is to really come up with the right price. And it's through my guidance that I help them to see that. Now, that being said, sometimes there's a little bit of a gap between what I'm showing them and what their expectations are.
Right.
So then, it really becomes a question of seeing whether or not this person would be willing to sell their property in terms of what the market will bear.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, what you do is you have a listing that's just going to sit. And you probably know this very well. If you're on the market 2 or 3 weeks and you haven't gotten any offers or any calls, the market is telling you something. It's fair to pay attention.
That's right. I often find that when in competition with others for listings, that you'll find an agent or two who will just what we call buy the listing, right? They'll tell the seller anything the seller wants to hear just to get something significant on paper, and then figure they'll grind them later and reduce price later. I always think that's the worst way to go. It's the worst way to build trust, and it just wastes the time of the seller. But sellers want to hear what they want to hear. They go to Zillow, they see what's listed there, which is usually 10 to 15% higher than what it should be listed at. How do you combat Zillow and other these online companies that seem to have a high expectation for their sellers?
I'm really glad we're talking about this, because there's a lot of disruptors in the market and entities that their whole value proposition is working at a lower commission.
Right.
And I can tell you with confidence that real estate, it can be simple, but transactions are complex things. And there's so many details and things that I do in a transaction to walk my clients through so they get a good result. I just don't think that technology, even though technology is increasing and advancing, can replace the guidance of a good agent who knows the market and is informed and has a brokerage behind them that knows how to market and present properties in the best possible light.
I think I agree with you. I think the experience that an individual brings after being in the business and knowing a particular market is quite a bit different than doing an online search and knowing everything. It just is.
There's no question about it.
Now, would you shout out your phone number for people who want to probably give you a call, especially if they're looking for an agent in the San Fernando Valley?
Absolutely. So my number is 818-370-6024.
Great. Excellent. You have a website or something?
I do. David Krieger, spelled Kryiger. So it's www.davidkrieger.com.
Okay, excellent. And I just have one last question. When you're working with buyers, obviously I work with a lot of buyers too. When do you decide whether the buyer is real or whether the buyer is not real? We have about 30 seconds.
That's a really good question. I mean, it's instinct that I've developed over years, but of course, my definition of a buyer is someone who actually buys. You know,
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're in a transaction or let's say an escrow with someone, and you begin to sense their anxiety, et cetera. I mean, I really only want to work with people who are committed to the process and that I can help, and that's most of the time.
Right.
I think that the time at which I make a decision on whether or not that person's actually a buyer can vary depending on their commitment to the process.
David, thank you very much. We're out of time, but I really appreciate it. I want to do it again to get an update later on in the years to see what's happening in Encino and obviously in the Valley too.
My pleasure, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. That's David Krieger from Berkshire Hathaway. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. We'll be right back with more in just a moment. For more information on today's topic, email Jeff Barton at info@malibufunding.net. Now, back to The Mortgage Voice with your host, Jeff Barton.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. 888-713-2929. That's our telephone number. Pick up the phone, give us a call. We repeat that number every segment at the top and the bottom of the show. And the reason we do that is because in order for us to help you, you have to contact us. Now, I know there are generational issues here. Maybe people who are listening to the show in the radio driving around, they don't want to email or call, or they want to text, or they want to social media. I, Jeff Barton, am on everywhere. And so if you need to get in touch with me, smoke signals are also okay. You can do it. We're here to help you. We're not here to preach to you, or are we here to try to tell you how to do things? I'm not the answer to the solutions. The people out there who we bring to the show, they have the answers. I'm going to try to facilitate that by bringing new and exciting people to the show all the time. I went to LinkedIn, as I said in the last three shows, and began to search for good people who knew about real estate and were very interested in talking to you about what they do and how they might do it a little bit differently than somebody else. Along those lines is Clinton Brown from Keller Williams Westside Realty. Really appreciate him on the show. Clinton, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
And thank you very much. Again, this is the first conversation I've had with Clinton, so welcome and thanks for coming on once again.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so tell us about the business. It says West Side, and I'm sure everybody knows where the West Side is, but if you could describe where your business mostly lies, that'd be great.
Yeah, so my group, Brown Realty Group, we are with Keller Williams Realty West Side, and that's my area of focus is in Palms and the surrounding area. So that's between Culver City and Cheviot Hills.
Okay, very good. Now, specifically, some of the issues that you deal with in your neighborhood that people may not be aware of, you're fairly close to major city intersections down in the Palms area, so it's a high-density living. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what are some of the issues that you might deal with high density that people who are listening to the show would also appreciate?
Well, I think when I talk to the property owners, because we have a mix of single-family homes as well.
Right.
And the owners, they don't want to sell. They love the neighborhood. what about investing that equity, the equity that they have accumulated in their home, to leverage the property that they have to invest in our community and purchase a multifamily residential building, which is an income property.
Right.
So essentially, we have a really great opportunity for a lot of people that want to invest in LA, especially because our neighborhood is at the center of this growth of Google's moving in at
right.
West Side Pavilion. We have Culver City over there with Apple employees moving in. So this is a neighborhood that young professionals really enjoy, and it's walkable. And so when I talk about people is, the equity. If they have equity, it's a great time to put that money to work.
Now, are you saying equity in their home in your area, take that money out and buy something additionally in your neighborhood?
Yeah, or if they're in LA,
right.
If they're looking to have an income property, the equity that a lot of people have accumulated over the past few years, isn't really working for them if they're not able to use it. And, they want to stay in their home. There's lots of advantages to having passive income.
Right.
So, and rents, and actually the biggest demographic of renters that are growing are, according to California Association of Realtors, are people that make $150,000 or more a year.
Right.
So there's an opportunity out there for these rents that are increasing and these and the ability for people to invest their equity.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the availability of properties in your particular area now that we're talking about taking equity out, possibly putting it back into the neighborhood. What are some of the opportunities that you see?
Well, I see a lot of opportunities in the there are a lot of times where developers want to purchase a building and then tear it down and rebuild something else. But there's a lot of opportunities to invest in the existing infrastructure that we have. We have some great buildings that were built, in the 70s, 80s, that just need to be renovated a little bit, and so there's an opportunity there. So you don't have to go full on,
right.
developing and all that. I mean, I think when people think of, buying a residential building, they think, oh no, it's going to be a process as far as, tearing it down, all this, but you don't have to do that. We love the character of the neighborhood, and a lot of people would, I think, appreciate more the fact that we could renovate some of these buildings instead of just, tearing them down and building bigger buildings.
What do you like to do more? Do you like more of the interaction or the development part?
You know what? I like both. I like the fact that, I love hearing how people, their story, their situation, what it might be personally, and how we can get them from point A to point B. There's a lot of different aspects of the job that are very important, but the main focus that I have is focusing on the people and their needs and how we can get them from point A to point B.
How are you getting your investors, people that are interested in doing some of this, or because you've been doing it so long, they're coming to you? well,
a little bit of both, but I'm an old fashioned. I like to door knock, call people. So I farm, quote unquote, farm my neighborhood in respect to that. Especially, I like to get out and hear people in their conversations and what's going on. And I think that that's the best way when you meet somebody at their door and you have that intimate conversation about, their situation, and it's a nice feeling to be able to help them, if I can help them.
How are you combating the newer generation? And I don't even know how old you are. You could be the newer generation. What do I know? But there is such a move to doing everything through your phone or online and not necessarily face-to-face. I happen to agree with you about face-to-face. I think it's the only way to do real estate. But how do you draw in people who aren't necessarily of the same mindset?
Yeah, so I'm 32, so I guess I'm millennial generation.
Uh-huh.
However, I think, so we have, our social media outreach, Clinton LA Home. Anybody can go there and see our team. In addition to that, I mean, I like to, whatever the client prefers for their communication.
Yeah.
We try to do the best we can as far as the outreach, because I know that a lot of, like you said, it's more convenient. A lot of people to send a text than pick up the phone.
Right.
But I like both. I think that part of this job is the interaction with people and the trust that you build. So, yeah. So I think that we want to, because the real estate market is shifting, to the more of that streamlined process.
Yes, it
technology. And we want to stay ahead of the curve. And but I think that the one thing that can't replace is that relationship with the realtor that you build, and that face-to-face communication. And I think I hope that'll always be an aspect of the job that will be there.
Well, in the lending world, I can tell you that the drive to technology is making the interaction between people who do the business and the customers less and less likely. And the reason for that is cost, right? I mean, if you're not making the money you were making 2 years ago, where can you learn to either cut costs or improve efficiencies? And either way, that eliminates people. And so I don't know if real estate itself can be bought and sold by that, but are you intimidated or scared by some of the discount realtors that are out there selling your services short?
No, I think the competition for the market's good. And one thing about this job is that it changes. Just like your mortgage industry, there's lots of changes, and you have to kind of roll with the changes, so to speak. And I think whatever you can do to implement these, if it's better for the consumer, then hey, I'm all for it. So we have to adapt to those. Because it's consumer driven, and a lot of the times this is if they're not buying their first home or their second home, or that they're going to be investing in income properties. This is a big decision, and I think that a lot of people want that that reassurance, that face to face. Even though, a lot of stuff can be automated. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think there's a blend there somewhere, and I don't know what that's going to cost or how much money you can make in the future, but I think exactly like you do, you cannot replace the people in the equation, but at the same time, there are efficiencies that can be better handled through technology.
Absolutely.
You know what? Our time's up. Clinton, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. And if anybody needs more information, it's Clinton LA Home, and I'd love to help anybody out there.
Yeah, shout out your phone number if you would, please.
Sure. It's 310-487-6453.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. 310-487-6453.
Clinton Brown, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, and I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry, and we'll see you next time.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. For more on today's topic, visit www.malibufunding.net.
Every day is 3 for the price of one day at KCAA Loma Linda. Listen on